let me see if I can try to help everybody understand a few things real quick. Um, I'm Joshua Wyatt. Obviously, you can see I'm Caucasian. I live in Alabama. I normally trend Republican in my voting. Obviously, those are the things right now that everybody hates: white person, Republican, and Alabama. Roll Tide. Team Elephant. I think there's some confusion about everything that's been going on. I'm not an insider, but I do follow politics. I do follow headlines. You know, I want to try to have a civil conversation so that people can kind of understand where everything is going. Now, let's back up and let's take this from the beginning. And this may be a lengthy video, I don't know. But let's kind of take this from the beginning. And by the beginning, I mean right after George W. Bush had his 8 years and then President Barack Obama come into office. I'm not a person that's going to turn around and say, oh, that ain't my president, Barack Obama ain't my president, I call him Barack Obama. That's disrespectful. That's not the case. I did not agree with a lot of the social issues that President Barack Obama placed. I didn't agree with some of the other issues that he did. Did I vote for him? No, I did not. But he was elected. He's my president. We were and still are, compared to what a lot of people are saying, the United States of America. United being the key word. But from a rural and even to a degree a Midwestern or Southern type of stance, a lot of the social issues that President Barack Obama put forth contradicted and went completely against with the way that we have been raised up, whether it was in church or the way your family raised you up, and quote, our conservative values. A lot of the things that he tried to initiate went against those things. So much so that instead of being what a lot of people refer to as a moderate, somebody who kind of can cater or sponge to both sides of the aisle, he leaned more what people would consider to be a little bit more of a left-leaning person. Not near as left-leaning as, say Bernie Sanders or maybe even Hillary Clinton. I'm not sure. But, he leaned a little bit more left than a lot of people were comfortable with. Still won, still was our president, but, so at that point, after 8 years of that and lighting up the lighthouse with rainbow colors and doing everything, not that those things are completely wrong, okay? Not that I'm not getting on here and bashing those things, but it was a lot of what George W. Bush called shock and awe. It was a lot of shock and awe that just shook a lot of people to their core because it wasn't what they were believing. And it seemed like the president and the nation were moving in a direction and leaving a demographic of people out. Well, here comes the Republican primary to replace Barack Obama. And it's loaded down with very good qualified candidates. But what they're saying is, they're saying the exact same thing that everybody else has said. And they're actually leaning a little bit more moderate than what, than a lot of people wanted. So here comes this wild and brash and rough and tumble and individual from the private sector, Donald J. Trump. And he comes in there and he blows it up. And he blows everything out of the water. And he comes in and he soundly defeats their golden candidate with Hillary Clinton. And he comes in and he's rough. And I'll be honest with you, the stuff that he's sitting there and the stuff he's tweeting down, and I don't know if there's a person that agrees with 100% of what he sit there and does, but it was somebody that people were looking at who had been lost in the shuffle, and they were like, well, he's fighting for me. And let me go back on those topics, okay? I want to cover this real quick, but I want to be very thorough, okay? The Black Lives Matter movement started under Barack Obama, okay? I do not have an issue at all with Black Lives Matter. I do not. I think it's a great social movement. Where a lot of people had a problem with it is when it went from a social movement to a violent protest and rioting and burning of different things, burning, arson, looting, and everything like that. That painted it in a negative context. Okay, listen to me now, because we're going to go back and cover this again a little bit later on. That painted it in a negative context, and it'll turn a lot of people off from it. Now, I understand that there's not a lot of people that were doing that. You know, a lot of people were there to put forth a genuine and much needed argument that there, in some cases, African American individuals are targeted wrongly by the police. Now, when I say that I understand their movement, I'm going to frame it by saying this. Again, you see me. I'm a white Caucasian male. Have I ever been accosted by the police? I have not. I'll be straight honest with you. I have not. I live in Alabama, not in a huge metropolitan area. The few times that I have dealt with police authorities in my area, either from my hometown or where I work at, or even to some of the places that I travel to work, primarily in the South, South Carolina, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee. I have been to Colorado and I've been to Toledo, but I haven't had to experience any police issues out there. I've experienced nothing, okay? I can't speak on and refuse to speak on the way an individual may feel when they see police lights. The only time that I have ever been concerned with a police presence, and this is a very minimal thing compared to what some of Black individuals feel, is when we would go on missionary trips to Mexico and there was a fear of being pulled over by the federales, because they would target Americans coming in for extortion and for bribery. Or we've had individuals back when we were traveling to Mexico for missionary trips be pulled up and detained unless they could come up with money, okay? So, with that being said, if that is the way an African American feels in America when he sees blue and red lights light him up behind, then I understand. From my little experience, I understand that is a cause for concern, and that should never be acceptable in the United States of America. But, like I said, I'll frame it with this. Have I been through that? I have not. Do I have a right to tell those individuals that the police are your friends and that no, because I haven't been in those situations. I don't live in a metropolitan area with, say, New York that has 100,000, police officers, more than that. They have. Sure, there's going to be some bad apples in there. I'm sure, in most, in some police departments, there may be one or two bad apples in there. I don't know. From my experience, I haven't seen any, but I'm from rural Alabama. I'm not from a metropolitan area, so I can't speak on somebody saying, well, if they'd have just done what they were supposed to and got out and put their hands up and did this and did that, that's hypocritical coming from some of us, and y'all really need to stop, okay? Because you've never been put in that position, okay? So we're going to get that out of the way quick, like. Now, like I said, I'm going to come back to this and cover it in just a second when it comes to the looting and the arson and the rioting, okay? But so with that being said, I don't have a problem with Black Lives Matter. Do I like the fact that some athletes are kneeling down or in silent protest and everything like that? I don't. But, if it affects me that much, I can turn the channel. Okay. I don't like their disrespect to the flag, but if that's what the individual feels like he needs to do to try to draw attention to an issue, okay, there were a lot of people who died for him to do that. I would do it a different way, but I'm not that person, so I'm not going to judge on that person. Okay. Now, we've got that part out of the way. Everybody knows me. I'm not a racist person. I hire black people to work with me. I told one of the guys that was working with me the other day, I said, I'm more comfortable around black people when, that are on the job sites. To me, I'll be honest with you, a lot of times they're more honest. I get some of these, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I get some of these uppity white contractors and they try to gouge the crap out of me when it comes to the money, and I've got several people, of black descent that I can be like, look, this is what I'm looking for. Can you do that? Absolutely. Give me a good fair price. And that's what I do. I ran a roofing crew for years, with black individuals. So I just want everybody to know where we're coming from on that. Now, under 8 years of President Obama, there were several things that were instituted and initialized and brought forth that a lot of people in the South and the Midwest did not agree with. The gun control thing, okay? I have grown up around guns all my life. I'm not a gangbanger in Chicago that needs somebody to tell me that, that I shouldn't have a gun, that I've committed a violent crime and I shouldn't have a gun. But when you start talking about gun control and you start putting a blanket emphasis on everybody, and not the criminals that are actually doing or causing the problems, but you want to turn around and say, we need gun control across the board. That bothers a lot of people in the southern states and the Midwest states, and even some of the northern states or whatever. That bothers people because I've had guns all my life. I've got a gun safe right over here, okay? I've got guns. I've got multiple guns. I got multiple pistols, I'm a collector. Those are my things. I buy with my money. Some people collect cars. Some people collect baseball cards. Some people collect, Tupperware. This is what we do. This is what I do. I have guns. I've got multiple guns. All right. So then you're like, well, we're not going to worry about the guns. We're going to make the ammo go up. Okay. In the South, and I'm sure in the Midwest, I'm only speaking about the South because that's where I'm from. A lot of people hunt, not for the sport, but for sustenance. Okay? That's a time for where them can save a little money on their grocery bill instead of going out and buying hamburger meat or buying chicken or buying things like that. They can go out there and harvest them a deer, hunt rabbit, hunt squirrel, and there's a lot of people in the South, probably in the Midwest, probably out west in some of the other states that do that. And when you start talking about taking away their ability to do that by limiting firearms or limiting ammo, you're changing a way of life for these individuals that they have been taught, and it goes back generations. Some of them, their granddaddy taught their daddy who taught them, or their granddaddy taught them, or their great-granddaddy taught their granddaddy who taught their daddy who taught them about gun control, gun safety, and hunting. But all of a sudden, you got somebody who comes in, president, who doesn't know these issues. All he's seen is the murder and the rampant mayhem in Chicago, and he's like, we got to do something. We got to do something better. We got people going on gun rampages, and you put something blanket out there. Now, as good as it may sound, as warranted as it may be needed in some areas, the United States is a very diverse area. You can look at us now. We're split. I'm sorry. We're split right down the middle, and what is good for New York City may not be good for Mobile, Alabama. And what's good for California may not be good for Mississippi. So you've got to be able to take these things and work them across the board in a productive manner. I do not think that happened under the previous administration. Honestly, I don't think it happened under this administration. We swung so far to the left with some of these social and ideological issues that it really made the working voter, the middle class working voter, go out and find somebody and reject the normal Republican names, the Jeb Bush, and the Republicans had been there and have been established, and reject them to bring in a flamboyant, a brash, a mouthy, a belligerent individual, and nominate him for president because they wanted somebody who was going to fight for them and change it back. On my standpoint, I am a licensed general contractor in the state of Alabama. I do a lot of work in the state of Alabama. I do a lot of work in other states as well. There is a severe problem with undocumented and illegal labor from Latino countries, not Mexico. I'm not going to get on here and bash Mexico because a lot of them don't come from Mexico. They travel through Mexico. They come from Latin America, Honduras, Guatemala, some of the countries a little bit further south, and travel through Mexico to get there. Okay, they come here, and I understand the need to take care of individuals on a global stage. We went to Mexico for years, twice a year for 10 or 12 years, building churches and doing mission work in Mexico, bringing food, supplies, clothing, other items in there to try to help the Mexican population. Then after that, when the drug cartels took over Mexico to a degree to where we couldn't go, we went to Honduras in Latin America and did the same thing. We flew into Honduras and we would turn around and buy supplies and carry it out there as much as we could, just trying to help out as much as we could. So I wanted to tell you that so that you don't think, well, he's a racist. He just don't like Mexicans. I have so many people that you don't like Mexicans. People who say that have never been on a mission field. Okay, I've been in villages where measles, something that we get vaccinations for, has run rampant into these little villages, and babies are crying out because there's no medicine, and we brought medicine in. Okay, I've been into Honduras where they fight drug cartels, and they're just trying to harvest bananas and pineapples, and from the big corporations like Dole and Chiquita, who run slave labor camps almost down there because they're not paying them enough money to do anything, and bring in rice and beans for the individuals. This is what I've done. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you, don't come at me when you see this and say, well, he's a racist. He doesn't want anybody to come in. I have no problem with people coming in. Immigration is a great thing. It brings new lifeblood into a civilization. It brings new lifeblood into a country. It brings new lifeblood with people who come up with more ideas. Our country was built on immigration. I'm not a person that's saying lock the doors and don't let anybody in. But we have to have borders. A country that doesn't have a border is not a country. It's a territory that everybody can turn around and occupy. You have to have borders. These people who are trying to manipulate you and thinking, no, we don't have to have a border wall, we don't have to have anything like that, live in gated communities with gates and fences and walls around their property. If you're that type of person, then take your fence down and let whoever walks through your backyard that wants to walk through your backyard. So it's not that somebody's racist or, that they, I just want it to be to where it's a little bit more fair. If you want to come in, you do what you're supposed to, and you come in. You fill out the paperwork, you get naturalized. There's a process, not just running over the top of the border and coming in, okay? with that being said, when I go back to my original topic here, I'm a general contractor. Okay. I worked an individual, I was not going to call names. I worked an individual who I hired on, fantastic person, knows his stuff, been doing this for a long time. He got let go from his job because two Latino laborers came in and replaced him. Yes, he was doing the work of two Latino laborers, but they came in and they did it for cheaper. It was cheaper for that boss man to pay them, two of them, compared to the one guy. But the one guy was getting paid what his wage should have been. But the other guys come in and were doing it for cheaper. And he lost his job. And I hired him. Oh, yes, I hired him. And he did good work for me. Went to South Carolina, went to Louisiana, worked all over the place with me. The only reason why he's not with me now is because he needed a job with healthcare insurance, and I couldn't offer it to him at the time, or he'd still be with me. That's what I'm talking about. In the South, where we're more rural, and probably in the Midwest, I don't know, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know the demographics out there. You got contractors, plumbers, electricians, mechanics, HVAC, mechanical, gas, all these individuals own their own businesses. Okay? They can't afford to be undercut by illegal, undocumented workers. I lost a job this last year that I know that should have been the cheapest one on there. I got undercut by somebody who had a crew of undocumented, illegal workers. That frustrates me to no end, because if I got cut out of the job because I was too high, that's one thing. I've lost jobs because I've been too high. But to lose a job because I've got two African-American guys that I paid, and me and my dad that works with me on a job, and we're too expensive, and you got a crew of 7 Latino workers. Nothing wrong with Latino workers. Again, I find that very hard. I dislike that. So when an individual comes up there and he's campaigning and he's hollering and screaming about "Make America Great Again," yeah, he's going to sway people over to his side, especially in the South, especially in the Midwest, and especially sometimes in the Rust Belt up there in Minnesota, Michigan, and Ohio, where they've been suffering from these things. You don't see this from people in New York City or Atlanta or San Francisco or Los Angeles, okay? Because if you have somebody who undercuts you, you're working in a different type of job. I know there's service industries out there, okay? But they're not the predominant jobs. But when you're in some of these rural areas and this is what people are doing, and their lifeline and their lifeblood and the way they make their money, and they're being undercut by illegal labor, then they're going to say, you know what? We want a wall. We want you to build a wall so that we don't get undercut. Because if we undercut, we can't afford our food and we can't afford our groceries. Because we don't, at the time, I'm just giving you highlights here, we don't meet the criteria for the government assistance. So you're cutting us out. You're cutting us off at the legs and you expect us to stand. Okay? That's the mentality that you were dealing with when this brash, mouthy, belligerent New Yorker decided to get on the ballot and started screaming about "Make America Great Again" and talking about building a wall. Well, yeah, everybody's going to turn around and jump up for that. That's what we want. That's what we want. That's what we needed at the time. That's what everybody was screaming. We need somebody who's going to fight for the middle class of America. Okay? That's what they were talking about. I want somebody, again, I'm just giving you overviews and suggestions of what people are saying. This isn't a quote from me. It's what I want you to know. This is not me quoting this. But you can get on there and you can find somebody saying, yeah, I want somebody who's going to stand up for me and make sure that I'm taken care of as far as I have a fair shot when it comes to bidding on a job, because we're going to have a border wall off that's going to slow this down to where those people are not coming in and taking the job. And yeah, I want somebody who's going to fight for me to where I don't have to worry about that, they're going to come and take my guns or make my ammo so high that I can't buy it, so I can't go out and hunt for sustenance. And then because a lot of the people don't understand it. If I had this conversation with somebody, say from New York, they're like, why are you going out and killing deer anyway? When there's plenty of meat in the grocery store. Right. But people don't want to spend their money on stuff that they can go and get themselves. The South, the Southern person, the Midwest person, the Alaskan person is not somebody that wants to depend on an institute to sustain themselves. They want to be able to take care of themselves. That's all we want, is to be able to take care of ourselves. And when you try to bring in a big government to try to push us around and take care of us, to take care of us for us, that's where you get a problem. And they get a big, brash New Yorker to be elected who probably shouldn't have been elected. But he was saying the right things, because he's like, the middle class is saying, now I got somebody who's going to fight for me. I've got somebody who's going to fight for me. I got somebody who's, when President Barack Obama says, we don't need to have these individuals with guns. You don't need to have multiple guns. We don't need to have it. Okay? The criminals are the ones that are breaking the law, but why are you penalizing me? That's the mentality. Okay? The illegal immigrants are the ones that are undercutting the contractors and taking the jobs from them. From the Americans. So why are we providing them sanctuary and free health care? All right. I'm just telling you ideas. I'm fine. Okay. I have health care. I'm fine. Everything is good to go with us. I'm giving you what you need to understand so that when we go further, you can grasp what we're talking about. So you got that going on. Okay. Then you have the social issues that keep getting pushed, that change the dynamic of what we grew up around, what most Southern individuals grew up around. Okay. The same-sex marriages. Again, I'm not going to get on here and get into those social issues. Okay. That they are what they are. Things are progressing the way they are, but that doesn't mean that most people embrace it now, because it was shoved on us. Not by our, we didn't evolve into it. Maybe we didn't grow into it over a period of time. It was just, bam, there it is. Deal with it. Okay? Or it is, here's that. Deal with it. Doesn't matter if you don't like it. Deal with it. No grace period, nothing like that. Deal with it. The universal health care, which I'm going to get a lot of people ticked off at me about this one. I don't necessarily have a problem with, because my mom has taken advantage of it, not taken advantage of it, but it has helped her out tremendously, and my dad. I don't have a problem with that. I think as a country as a whole, we are neglecting our most valuable resource. What is our most valuable resource? It's not natural gas. It's not oil. It's not lumber. It's not textiles and steel. Our most valuable resource are our senior citizens. And we're neglecting them by providing them shoddy health care, high prescription cost, or putting them in a maze of, bureaucratic red tape on how they can get the best health care that they need. That is a big steaming pile of crap. Okay? Our aging population, our senior citizens, are our number one most valuable asset. Specifically, this baby boomer generation that put a man on the moon, that created the internet that, we have so many things to be thankful for. The greatest generation ever who is, in the nursing homes now from World War II. These are individuals with remarkable history, remarkable stories, remarkable experience. And what are we doing? Trying to shove them out, shove them in the corner, provide inadequate health care for them, hoping that they die. Wrong. So I don't have a problem with the universal health care. Do I think it was initiated correctly? Oh, no. It was definitely not initiated correctly. Did the Republicans come up with something better? No, you did not. No, you didn't. So don't get ticked off about Obamacare because you had plenty of chances to change it and make it better, but you didn't do it. So we're stuck with it. I say we're stuck with it. It's doing part of the job it was supposed to do. Now, that's on one hand. On the other hand, did it make my health insurance premiums go up? Yes, it did. Dramatically. That's part of a frustrating measure because you've got individuals that work in manufacturing or self-employed, who work at either in the manufacturing with, say like, the tire plants, B.F. Goodrich or, Mercedes-Benz, or in our local area, Tamco or Pfeiffer, these manufacturing companies. And then you've got a lot of individuals who are self-employed and they're having to pay these high costs for health care because of the way that Obamacare was initialized and how it was put forth and the problems that it had. It caused a strain on the insurance, and it as far as the insurance companies, and it caused the premiums to go up. Yeah, high. All right. Well, you throw that out there to where all of a sudden somebody's making some money, but they're not making as much money as they need to because the insurance premiums went up. And you got a family plan, you put that on there, and then you got to still meet the deductible. Then you got to have meet the deductible for the prescriptions and everything like that. And you add a layer of stress to an already stressful person. Then you take that stressful person who's dealing with that, okay? Take that stressful person who's dealing with that one. Then you're talking about, now we're going to crack down on your firearms. Now you can't, the money that you would be saving by hunting and eating venison or rabbit or duck or anything like that. And now you've made it so expensive to buy ammo. And you made it to where people are making a run on ammo and they can't get the ammo. Now you've added another layer of stress on top of that individual. And then that individual's children come home from school and they've got stories that their school are teaching them about Adam and Steve and Mary and Martha and the kids that they have together. And it completely flies in the face of the way they were raised. And then you throw another layer of stress on there because now it feels like their children are not being taught the way they were taught in school. And you add that on top of it. And then you want to know, everybody out there wants to know, really, why Donald Trump was elected? Because you ran headlong into the wall and you didn't stop and check yourself. And that's where we're at. Now, again, I'm not judging on the way things are going. Elections happen. Elections have consequences. President Trump, at the time of the election, came in and made some changes and made some things and where people felt like that he was fighting for them. He would have these massive rallies that filled up stadiums with predominantly, we're going to call it, predominantly white, middle-class, working individuals. And he would say, we're watching out for you. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of. And it created a rampant and rabid following of individuals because now it's not the bureaucratic Democrat or the highfalutin Republican, but it's actually somebody, because I don't really care how you put it in today's society, with our two-party electoral, our political system, you're either going to have a D in your name or you're going to have an R, okay? Democrat or Republican. Even though I know And most anybody should know that Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. He's a socialist, an avid, avowed socialist, not a Democrat, socialist. Okay? I don't necessarily consider Donald J. Trump to be a Republican, a nationalist, you know, more of an America First party. I think if there was such a party, I think Teddy Roosevelt had that nationalist party going, but it'd be one of those type things. Someone that was looking out just for, you know, the working class. He didn't necessarily jump into bed with the manufacturing or, you know, the IT industry or anything like that. He was really just worried about, you know, the middle class person. I'm not going to get into where people think, oh, he's a racist or anything like that, because there's so many people that could turn around and say, well, he's a racist. But there's, you know, I don't get into that because, first of all, you don't know the man's heart. You know, I've seen him there with black individuals in the White House. I've seen him there with white people in the White House. You know, I've never seen him say anything untowards, but I'm not going to get into that. If you want to comment about it, you know, whatever. But I'm not going to get into that about what he did because I think it's a lot of just media spin on half of it. But you got that individual who's created a rabid following of middle class. And then let's throw in the other side of it. Again, in the rural areas, in the South, in the Midwest, and some of the other states, we don't have the police issues that a lot of the metropolitan areas have. So when you're talking about defunding the police, and I hate the police, and the police are pigs, and all police should die, and people are going in and shooting police officers or slashing police officers while they're parked in their cars and assassinating and sabotaging the police departments, that creates a problem. Again, I'm not from a metropolitan area, not from New York City, okay? I don't know how many bad apples are in the Big Apple, okay? I'm speaking from the southern side and the Midwest side, okay? And when you start hollering all about that, even though, I will give you this, even though some of that may be warranted in some of those larger areas, I understand, I get that. But again, I'm not talking about a blanket across the entire United States. You can't come across the entire United States and saying from California, the West Coast, all the way over to North Carolina on the East Coast, every police department needs to be defunded and we need to do something else. That was the rhetoric that was coming out. That's the reason why you had such pushback. Again, that's another layer of stress added over to this person. And all of a sudden, now he sees Donald J. Trump as not just a man fighting for him, but this is our last chance. You know, if we defund the police, who's going to protect us? Okay? Even though some individuals see the police as not as protectors, but as aggressors, that is not normally the case in rural South or rural Midwest areas. So, you know, you didn't say defund the police in New York or Chicago. You said defund the police everywhere, or we hate the police, or we hate, you know, pigs or whatever. You know, can't do that. The United States is a diverse area. You can't turn around and throw these things over on one. What's good in California cannot be good in Florida, cannot be good in, you know, each state needs to be able to handle their issues the way they need to be, as long as they don't violate anybody's civil rights, okay? Because we've been through that before with the civil rights movement. So then you got the election that comes down, okay? I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories or junk like that. I'm not going to get into that. The election happened. The election has results. You know, there was a narrative that was pushed that the election was stolen. I don't know. I didn't see any evidence. I see a lot of court cases that were brought up. I see a lot of court cases that was dismissed. Do I agree that the election happened completely without fault all the way around? Honestly, I don't. But I don't know if there's any election that happens all the way around without any type of fault or any type of election fraud or anything like that. You know, not in today that we deal with. You know, until we go back to where, or until we have voter ID where one ID is one vote and we vote back in person again, or unless we do the absentees for deployed military or people who are shut in. I think this is only going to get worse because I do not like the idea of the general public mailing in. There's too many hands that touch ballots after that. I was brought up in the way that I remember and the way that I was taught is that, you go into the voting booth, you cast your ballot, and that is it. And then you walk out, and that is you voting. And where I vote at, a ID is required. And I think that it should be everywhere. I think that if we're going to go forward, if I have to have a driver's license, a photo ID to operate a moving vehicle, if I have to have an ID to get into certain places, if I have to provide an ID for me to, pay my power bill with a check or whatever, then, I don't think it's a hard thing to go ahead and have everybody provide an ID free, a free ID the government can issue to vote. That's my opinion. That's the way I feel about it. You go to bed because election took forever and ever and ever. You go to bed thinking, I think we won. I think we won. And then you wake up and wait a minute. Now the states that were there are being pulled back out. And every time there's these massive amounts of votes that are coming in, and none of them are going towards Donald Trump. And it does look a little shady. But again, the court cases went before there and they didn't find anything. So, I tend to agree with the court cases. If they don't find anything, there's nothing there. I have my own opinion of why some of the states swung over, and that's the topic for another day. But I think that the president did drop the ball when it came to dealing with Arizona specifically, the one that swung over. You don't go to the state of a very well-respected, long-serving senator who passed away, who was a Vietnam War hero and a POW, and bash him and his family in his home state. I'm talking about when President Trump turned on John McCain. John McCain was a war hero, a very worthy individual who should be remembered and memorialized for a long time, and was Arizona royalty. But you decided to go and bash him in his own state? No, I'm sorry. The reason why you lost Arizona had nothing to do with the Democrats. That's on you, brother. You should not have done that. You cannot do that. Okay? So, do I believe there was voter fraud? Absolutely. Do I think it was enough to swing the election? Probably not. I mean, there's some things that, that were put out there by the president that probably spun it in the other person's favor, and President-elect Joe Biden's favor. That's just being honest with you, okay? And I voted for Trump. In the primary, my family voted for Ben Carson, okay? I wanted you to know that. I don't like to tell people who we voted for, but I wanted you to know that because people be like, well, you just voted for Trump. No. I actually, in the primary when they were running, I didn't vote for Jeb. I voted for Ben Carson, I thought he had the best. He's a black individual. I thought he had the best platform. But he got a job in the administration, so I guess we were happy with that. And then you turn around, and remember these layers of stress I told you about. And you've got the Democrats, who are rightfully so, I get it, doing their victory dance. And talking about, we're going to tear the wall down. Well, now, a contractor friend doesn't have the security blanket of that my business is going to be okay because now we're opening it back up for whoever to come in and undercut me on all of my jobs. Okay, there you go. Oh, by the way, we got an individual who's appointing somebody who's adamantly opposed to anybody owning guns. There you go again. You're in the South. We have guns. You're not getting our guns. Okay, you're not. Just letting you know, you're not. Besides, my gun safe is empty. I sold all of them. Okay, they're gone. All right, you're not getting our guns, but then you got somebody who's turned around and said, "Okay, we're coming for your guns." They're putting people in there that say we're coming for your guns. I know it's rhetoric. I know it's hyperbole, but okay. There. So you go that layer of stress back on there, you know. Then you got the president tweeting out false narrative, perhaps, probably, most likely, that the election was stolen. You got 74 million people who voted for the president and 77 million people who voted for the other president, the president-elect, okay? And now here we are sitting in the middle with the country tour slapping two. So the president irresponsibly puts out a tweet. We're going to have a rally. We're going to have a rally in D.C. on the day they certify the elections, the results. Not very responsible. First off, we're going to have a rally where this is what we're going to do. Hey, you get everybody up there. Oh, and now they're stressed out because you've added layers of stress from the Obama administration to the constant fighting on the Trump administration, and now there's somebody that's going to be elected that is going to adamantly oppose everything that this person feels like he's got to have. I need my insurance premiums to go down again because I'm having a hard time paying for them with my family and my children. Oh, by the way, the gas prices that have been so low are fixing to go up because Biden's going to come in and have the EPA running like the Gestapo again and bring everything back up. So now I'm spending more money on gas prices, okay? Now my insurance is up, my gas is up, I can't hunt for my food, I can't buy ammo, I can't do these things, and you bring 300,000 people. Oh, by the way, we don't like the police. At least that's the rhetoric that's going around. We don't like the police. We think it's best if we defund the police and get rid of them. And now you've added a whole nother layer of stress, and you get 300,000 people up there, and they're just rapidly waiting for something to happen so that they can explode. And then something does happen. And they go inside the Capitol, and a few of them, 300,000 people didn't go inside the Capitol. So Fox News, CBS, NBC, everybody, stop saying this was a violent insurrection, okay? Not all of those people went in the Capitol, right? If every one of them people is guilty by association, then, I told you I was coming back to it, every person in Black Lives Matter is guilty by association for the few that decided to loot, burn, and riot in their cities. And they're not. There are good people in that organization who are trying to move the social issue forward. But if you're going to blanket call everybody who was there a racist, or 74 million people are racist, or 74 million people who voted are wrong, or 74 million people are ignorant, or 74 million people are forming an insurrection. You can't do that. You can't turn around and blanket everybody and call them that. That is not right. That is not American. And here's the other issue. Y'all hang on with me 1 second. All right? My phone, okay? I block them. I try to, but they get locked back up. Apple, y'all gotta do better now. If I block the news from coming in, stop unlocking them so they can keep coming in. But every one of these that pops up is about Trump and about how bad the people are who support Trump. Every 5 minutes, there's another headline from CNN, from Politico, from the New York Post, from the Washington Post, from the Times, to Reuters, to everything that's coming in, the Huffington Post, everything that's coming in is bashing that person that voted for Trump. Okay, I voted for Trump. I'm not a racist. I'm not a bad person. I didn't storm the Capitol. But according to every headline that comes out, I did. And I'm a miserable person, and I should find somewhere and die in a hole. Stop doing that and treating the 74 million people, half of the country, like a bunch of illegal infidels. Okay, we're here, we're in the country. Biden, you're going to be the president. I want you to do what you said you would do and reach out and bring everybody together if you're going to be the one. Reach out and bring us together like you're supposed to. But stop trying to appoint everybody that's fighting for what we don't want to lose. I don't want to lose my guns. I'd like my insurance to go back down. I'd like you to leave the ammunition alone. And I'd like you to try to at least leave the gas prices so that we can survive. Otherwise, the measly $600 that was sent out needs to be doubled, because if I can't work because of the undocumented illegal immigration, and I can't buy gas to go in my truck, and I can't buy ammo so that I can shoot a deer to take care of my family, so I don't have to buy beef because you're cracking down on the beef industry because the cows pass gas. Now do you see why everybody's head's blowing up? Now do you see why everybody's sitting there on a powder keg and went into the Capitol? Please, please, let's come together. Let's work together. Let's try to put it back together. The person that's got the Trump flag on their truck or the bumper sticker is not your enemy. Somebody reach out. Somebody come together. The individuals out there that voted for Biden, you're my friends, okay? I don't have nothing against you. Let's come together as a country. Let's bring it back together so that we don't have to turn around and fight amongst each other. 2021 is supposed to be a good year. It's going to be my best year yet. I need you to help it. I need you to help it. Let's bring it back together, everybody. Let's try to be more civil with each other. Let's try to understand one another. Let's have constructive conversation. I hope you've enjoyed this.